So you're talking about how you sequence records and how you play them, which is also important. One thing that's really unique about you is the way that you manipulate the sound and filter it. Where did that all come from?
That came from watching guys like Larry Levan. He was the master of that. You know what I mean? So for me, yeah, if you listen to every record that I do, obviously we all get to our loud moments. Every DJ does. It happens. You get so excited, everything's thumping, but sometimes some of those loud moments, they work. You know, so, but I take every record and I EQ them. It's almost like I'm mastering a record on the spot.
Exactly.
You know, I'm putting more highs here because I feel it needed more highs there. And you know what? When you listen to the song out there, it sounds better. It got too much bottom, so I take a little bit off as the record's coming in. But all that tweaking's happening naturally. It's at a point now that it's just, you know, it's part of my body, everything. It naturally happens. So yeah, I do EQ the songs as they come, and then I get to that point where I hear they sound good, and you know, you have to have good monitors, obviously, you know, and you have to play WAV or AIFF files. I don't play MP3s, you know, because for me, I want you to hear that record in the best way possible. You know what I'm saying? So
well, I know you're very particular about your riders in terms of what you get, in terms of your set and everything.
Yeah.
And is that why? Because it's important in terms of the sound that you deliver?
Yeah, you got to have the right equipment to be able to relay this message out to the people. So for me, yeah, I got to have those DMB monitors. I got to have those bottoms in the booth. You know, I want to feel what they're going to feel. Mm-hmm. I can't feel it with one little speaker. You know, I want to feel what they're going to feel, and I want you to feel what I'm going to feel, and then what comes out of it. You know what I mean? Because I got to be able to hit that, and it's got to feel like the way it feels out there. It's not going to be as big, but it'll be strong enough, and it'll make you feel that a little bit. So, you know, I think all that is a very important part of, if you want to be this kind of a DJ, there's different kinds of DJs now. You know what I mean? It's different.
So you were saying that working with Patrick, you first came over to the UK and did stuff in Europe.
Lynn Cosgrave.
And Lynn, of course, yeah.
Yes.
So did you get more sort of support and a break through the UK first before the States then, do you think? Or
no, I was already in the States in 1985. Once I went to play the Devil's Nest, which was in the Bronx, club that held 1,200 people. You know, I started there on Fridays. It did well. Louie, wants you to play Friday and Saturday. Boom, both nights packed. And those were those kids that would follow me in the high schools. Check that out. You know what I mean? These kids. So, listen, my family knew. They didn't know that this was serious, but they said, you know, there's something about you that people follow you. And my grandmother, who's very religious, told me this. You know, people gravitate towards you. There's something you have, and it's, you know, it could be the talent, but it could be the way you are, too. You know what I mean? But that's growing up in the Bronx. And that's, you know, being where I'm from.
You certainly have a kind of energy when you DJ. You can feel that energy.
Yeah.
It's not just playing records. It's more, like much more of a feeling with you, I think.
I think it's a bit of everything. I think that obviously you have to have, you know, your technique and everything and the way you do things. But I could be really tired, and I'll tell you, I travel a lot. You know, I could be really, really exhausted. But when I walk into the club and I see people smiling and feeling good and just like, wow, you know, he really came all the way out here. I came from Skopje last night, you know what I mean? And to see those people, I never, you know, 400 people in a club just feeling it. The owner's dancing. You know what I'm saying? The owner and his friends are dancing with his girls and everybody. They just were in it, you know? And for me, that makes me do what I do. So that energy, I don't know what happens, but it just comes in and I can do it. I can do it.
So you, I mean, you obviously started off DJing, but you've got a label. You obviously met up with Kenny Dope. You created Masters at Work. Yeah. So how did that all evolve?
Well, it goes way back because when I was in the Bronx, I was playing a style of music called freestyle, Latin hip hop, you know, and I was part of that whole sound too because I played in a club that, you know, you're talking about 16 and up. That was the age. It was kids. You know, I was a kid too, so, you know, that's what I played for. So at that time we had, you know, freestyle music that came from the whole Jelly Bean and Arthur Baker and that whole sound, but it was Latin kids in the Bronx making the music. So we started making this music. In 85, around that time, Tommy Boy approached me about remixing a record. It was Joey Gardner who managed a group called TKA, one of the freestyle groups. But he says, listen, you know, you took this record Running by Information Society. You made it so popular because I took this record from Minneapolis that nobody knew. And it became like a phenomenon. This record was incredible, you know, and he said, would you like to do a remix on it? So I said, listen, I don't know how to remix, but I'll go in and tell them what I want and what I'm hearing. He goes, that's all you got to do right now until you know. I went in, and the way I rearranged that record and brought out the sounds, it definitely made a big difference from the original. It was really more the old school way of mixing. If you listen to the way Francois K and all those guys did, you know, Walter Gibbons and everybody, they didn't overdub in the early days. You know, they were rearranging the records but making them sound better. But you can hear the difference. If you hear Go Bang, the album version, and Go Bang, the Francois version, oof, amazing job. If you hear Keep On, you know, what he did with that dub, you know what I mean? So it came from that school. You know, I was hearing those records already. I knew what was going on. So I did this for this sound and this, you know, for Tommy Boy. This style of music, you know, it was really big. You know, so in those days, from 85 to 90, I played in those clubs. A lot of young clubs, but I was playing house music. You know what I mean? To this day, you know, Marshall Jefferson and all, they, you know, they remember Larry Heard when I brought them to Heartthrob. That was a club I played at in '86. You know, Tent City, Ask Byron. We brought them to Studio 54. But in those days, it was Byron Stingley doing all his Tent City stuff with the group, Tent City, India, and Public Enemy. That's the kind of clubs I used to play it in those days, from 85 to 90. That was the lineups. You know, because that's the way I play my music. You know what I mean? So I guess that's why I appeal to this, you know, and that's why to this day, like Fat Joe, all my friends from the hip hop scene, you know, Bismarck, they remember me because I was playing their records and they were huge in our spots. Even though we played dance music, hip hop, everything was together. You know, so, you know, and that I get from those guys earlier, listening to Larry Levan playing like Mesopotamia by the B-52s, and then he could play like Tanner Gardner, When You Touch Me, you know, or Candido, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I learned from those guys.
And when did you meet Kenny Dope, and how did the whole master work?
Well, you know, I made about 150 records between 85 and 90, and it was freestyle music, and then Todd Terry came into the picture. So Todd, you know, he used to go to the clubs I used to play at Heartthrob, 86, 87, around there. So he came to the club with like a cassette. He's like, yo, man, I want you to check out this thing called Party People, check this out, whatever. And then I listened to that, I said, yo, but my man, I don't play cassettes. You got to put this on a reel-to-reel. Because in those days, I played on a reel-to-reel with a pitch control. 3 turntables, Yuri, and crossovers. Yeah. So I said, you got to come back. You know, he went home, he came back next week, and he brought me a reel-to-reel. And it had Party People on it. It had Go Bang. It had like all those records before they came out. Let's say 6 to 9 months before they came out. He said, look, I just finished this stuff. Just tell me if you like it, whatever, play it. In a matter of weeks, that music blew up in New York, in our clubs, the younger crowd. And of course, Larry played it too. And, you know, a lot of the guys, because Larry had went to Studio 54 in the late 80s or whatever, when I was there in 89. So, you know, I started playing this music, and it was great. You know, it was just blowing up all over the scene. So, you know, Todd was making so much music that he said, Louie, man, I like the way you mix records. Why don't you mix some of my records? Because I'm doing them too fast, and I have to move, and I want to keep putting the product out. You know, he was on a roll. So I said, yes, I mean stuff. And that's why if you hear a lot of Todd's stuff like Sax, DMS, Black Riot, I'm on a lot of those records. It's mixed by Little Louie Vega. So I started mixing house records, but I loved house music. I just didn't make it yet. So with Todd, I started making a couple of house records and stuff. And then eventually there was a record called A Touch of Salsa that Kenny Dope did on his Dope Wax label. And by that time, I was already playing some of his break beats. He was, you know, he was doing like these break beat kind of things, albums. Like they had Dancing in Outer Space, all these little, real cool grooves and everything. And then he also did a lot of like sample-based records, you know. And I really like The Touch of Salsa because he sampled Celia Cruz, a song called Kimbara on Fania Records, and he also sampled Sylvester, I Need You. And I really liked it. I said, yo, Todd, you know, who's this guy? You know, this record is hot, and I want to do a remix on it. He goes, oh, his name is Kenny Dope. He works at a record store in Brooklyn. Really nice guy. You want to meet him? I said, yeah, tell him to come by the club, whatever. Kenny started coming by the club. We became friends, and then we started going to each other's places. And, you know, by that time I had equipment. I had a drum machine and a keyboard. That was it. You know, and I used to do those records in those days like that, you know. And Kenny had a couple of pieces as well, and we started hanging out. We ended up, and I said, you know what, I'm making a transition into house music. You know, I want to do house music because I did all I could with the freestyle music. You know what I mean? Sometimes you feel you reach a level and there's nothing else you can do at that point. And those records were doing well. We were selling 250,000 copies to 500,000. I'm talking about Cover Girls. If you look at the old records I did, Silent Morning by Noel, those records were huge. The kids were singing along. It was beautiful. It was really nice, a good scene. And but I played house music and they loved it too. But I wanted to make it. And then I started making it with with Kenny. I said, yo, Kenny, let's do this. I think we should join. At that time I had an album deal. We're fast forwarding to like 1990. I got signed to Atlantic Records because I was doing a lot of mixes for them, like Debbie Gibson, like all those things, back in those days, and Chris Cuevas and all that. And when I got that deal, I was working with a singer, Mark Anthony, because in our clubs we had all these young singers, very talented. India, Mark Anthony, I mean, you name it, there was a bunch. Everybody was hanging out. It was cool. And I said, Mark, why don't you come and do this album? Be my partner. We could, do like Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe. That was the idea, like my uncle. Yeah. I said, you could be the singer, I'm the producer. I even went as far as going on stage playing keyboards, but I will never do that again. Long time ago, so we started, we had a record called Ride on the Rhythm. Yeah. So by that time, one of the first productions I did was Dancing on the Fire. I never got credit for that. It was on Jelly Bean's label, and I got remix credit, but I never got a production credit. I produced that record. So India, I brought her to Warner Brothers to Jelly Bean. So she was already signed and everything, and Mark Anthony came with me to Atlantic Records. So India said, let's write a lot of the songs for Mark to sing. So a lot of that writing on that album is India writing, Derek Whitaker, may he rest in peace. David Frank from System, Right System. Goodness, I got to work with Dan Hartman. One of my heroes, come on. I always play that record. But, Dan Hartman, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was at that time on Atlantic Records, I said, Kenny, why don't you come in the studio and just make beats for like a lot of different beats. Let's just do stuff together and see what happens. And that's what happened. He ended up hanging out with me in the studio for 4 months. I'm working on that album, making beats for the album, this and that, And then I said, let's try some things, but not for the album. And then I started playing all these grooves because I was playing keyboards, for my piano lessons. Yeah. And I took piano again, in the early 90s at that time because I was going on stage with Mark Anthony. So I said, let me brush up on this stuff. And, and I learned from the best, though. You're talking about Oscar Hernandez. These are Grammy winners, Ricky Gonzalez of the Latin music, what I'm saying, jazz and all that. And they taught me a lot about theory and stuff like that, And then I'm in the studio working and with Kenny, and we're coming up with these grooves that were like, okay. I stopped in the freestyle clubs in 1990, and I took a year and a half off. That's when I was making that album, and Kenny came in. So there was no clubs happening for me, you know what I'm saying? We were traveling, though. I was traveling because I had come to UK and stuff. But I started playing these grooves, and Kenny was making these beats, and I said, dude, this is strong, this is powerful, it really works, I said, Kenny, let's keep doing them, but keep doing different, coming up with different drum sounds, make a lot of different ones. And it's going to inspire me to play different, and you as well. We fed off each other. I said, yo, check out this groove. He would just play this beat. It was like that. And it was happening fast. So, at that time, then remixes came. And I said, listen, Kenny, I got opportunity to do remixes with some of the old artists I used to work with before, but they're pop artists. I said, why don't we take, let's take the B-sides of their records and put these grooves on them and sample their voices and hooks and try to find things. And then by that time we needed a name, and he said he had, he says, yo, I got this crew name that I used to use back in the days when I used to DJ in the late 80s and do my parties. It's called Masters at Work, I loaned it to Todd for 2 songs, but we'll take it back. I said, that sounds great. I love Masters at Work. Let's use that. And that was it. And then from there it went on. And once we started doing those pop remixes, that's why we listen to early Masters at Work. It's a lot of pop artists. But we said, let's take the B-sides and put our grooves on it. Next thing you know, you have Frankie Knuckles, Tony Humphries, Junior Vasquez playing like these records. But if you look at the artists, it would be like Debbie Gibson, who was like the Britney Spears of that time. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So it was like,
but they were classic club records, so the mixes that you did.
Those became classics, yeah. But I'm saying that they were playing that, and at that time they were playing a totally different, type of artist, let's say, But it was those B-sides, and then next, everybody wanted a Masters at Work dub, and everybody played the B-sides of those records. They even got on radio in New York. I couldn't believe it. I heard Saint Etienne on the radio.
So it's a magic combination. You're doing lots of remixes, but also creating your own tracks, like obviously working with India to Be in Love, massive record.
Well, that came later, and that was a Masters at Work track. But the things that Kenny and we came in making our own records as solo artists, So there was always a time when we would do a couple of records on our own, but they came out, it wasn't for reasons of, oh, let me do a record by myself. You know, when I did Deep Inside, it happened to be because Mark Anthony was friends with this young kid and wanted me to go to his home studio just to meet the kid, because the kid looked up to me so much. And please come to his studio, and whatever you want to do, let's do, you know, if you want to make something, whatever, just come to the studio. Took months, but when I finally went there, I said, oh man, cool, you got this little setup, put up the keyboard. I started playing and stuff. By that time, I was cooking. I was working 16, 18 hours a day with Kenny. I mean, you know, it was already 3 years into that, 93. Yeah, early 93. So next, you know, I'm playing this groove, a little beat down, play this groove and everything. And I said, yo, we just wrote this song. You know, I already started doing stuff on Strictly. I said, we wrote this song, and I'm thinking about it for Barbara Tucker. You know, because we're doing this party, the Underground Network parties. It was 92. So I already started doing the Underground Network parties by that time. Because I was playing the MAW tracks and everything there, and all the other stuff everybody was making. And it just made a whole scene for New York at the Underground Network parties. It was an industry party, but it was fans, it was dancers, it was a mixture of everything. And by that time, I was playing all those records, you know. And then when I'm in this kid's house, you know, I said, okay, let me just play this thing, whatever. Boom, boom. You're engineering? Okay, cool. You're programming? Nice. Let's go. Played the chords down, played the bass line. It was Deep Inside. And the kid behind the board was Eric Murillo. Okay. He was the kid who wanted to meet me. You know what I mean? He used to go to Sound Factory Bar, but he was friends with Mark Anthony. You know? So, you know, things like that used to happen. So that's why I'm saying I made a couple of records on my own and stuff like that, because things like that had evolved, you know, or whatever.
And in the meantime, remember, we used to have you, both you and Barbara, a lot to come over and do Garage City and play and stuff. So, so I think the whole thing was developing. So you've moved from DJing into actually setting a whole sound that's defined a certain sort of music. Yeah,
let's say by 93, I think we definitely defined, even 92, the Masters at Work sound, because we were doing so many records. And what happened was all the DJs, when they would go to the record stores, it got to a point where they would just go, that's a Masters at Work record, give it to me. Not even listen to it, you know what I mean? Because, well, you know, we worked hard to make that sound like that and to make those records like that. And we were proud of them. And we would not let them go out if they weren't ready. You know, so, you know, we started seeing it, you know. We started, and, you know, we used to go to record stores, Vinyl Mania, everything, and they used to be like, wow, Louie, you're making all these records with Kenny. That Masters at Work thing is crazy. You know, we look at this wall. And I used to go, and it was like a whole wall, and it was Masters at Work. Masters at Work. I was like, wow, that's really, it's... I remember when Larry Levan, when he was making records, and it was like, oh, Larry Levan wall. We were like, oh, take this, I'll take this, I'll take that, you know? And, you know, it started going in kind of like in that direction of, you know, people were really appreciating what we were doing. So there is where we kind of recognized, and then by 93, and we were starting to go to the UK. When we first came to the UK as Masters at Work, because I came before, remember, for like 2 years, but then when we came as Masters at Work, and that was with Lynn Cosgrave, thanks to Lynn. Who brought us out. We used to hang out with her, CJ McIntosh, and the whole family. You know, we used to play. And when we first came to the Ministry of Sound, I will never forget, like, there had to be like 400 DJs, producers, or DJs, producers.
Watching.
That wanted to see who are these Masters at Work guys that are putting out so much music like that. You know, and I'll never forget, it was Little Lewis playing. He was playing like a carnival-esque kind of record, like a disco classic, but it was like real carnival. And me and Kenny was looking around. We walked in, it was packed, and everybody was just looking at us. I was like, wow, okay. And then we went in. That's when we started doing, you know, we played together. Because when we first came out, we said, listen, playing as Masters at Work, we got to play together. And that's going to be the magic of it, you know, of to see us together doing this. So, you know, we have to work it out so both systems are playing as one. And that's what we did back in 91, you know, and we came out in 92. We did Italy, too. You know, I remember there's flyers somebody put up from Angels of Love from 1992 when they brought us to Naples. It was, you know, that was a long time ago.
And then it transitioned quite drastically from doing remixes on pop artists and working with emerging artists like India, doing some really deep projects like Nuyorican Soul, and working with some really established artists like George Benson, Stephanie Mills, people like that. So what was all that about?
Well, the thing is, when we went into the studio and we were working, when we made one remix, we would make 5 tracks. You know what I mean? So there was always extra tracks. So what we would do is we would take these tracks, and sometimes we would put them out for one of our own projects. You know, and that's when we started like Nuyorican Soul with the Nervous track. We were working on a remix, and that track came about, and we said, oh, we're going to keep this for us. It really works well. It doesn't, work as well with the song. But we still gave the song, what we could, and then we, the best we could. And we would take these tracks and put them out, with other aliases. We had New Soul, we had Bass Tone, we had Hard Drive, the Bucketheads, Kenny had, you know what I'm saying? We had so many different aliases that we used because we did so many different types of music.
But they were like full-on productions with massive...
Yeah. No, they were from beginning to end.
Yeah.
No, but they were first tracks and everything. And then, they became full-on productions, from, I guess, the early... Because, when we did the Masters at Work dubs, we wanted to put a song on it because we felt that was the weakness. We didn't have a song to put on those dubs. And that's then we brought in India. We said, listen, why don't you feel it on this track, see what happens. And she came up with I Can't Get No Sleep, just like that. Just sang it down. Like 2 takes, done. And, it was just, I guess everything happened so naturally when when we work, Kenny and I, there's really something special. It's really natural. I could not see him for 4 months. And when we go in the studio, it feels like we just were together yesterday, It was meant to be, man. It's definitely, the way we complement each other, it's really, really special. We went into the studio last year, and we come up with like 6 to 8, little demos that we have and stuff. We haven't finished them yet, but, I could see when we went back in, it was already like normal, And we did a couple of remixes and stuff, but, it's really something special that we have, when we're in there together.
And now you have Vega Records, and you put out a lot of releases on Vega Records. So, what's the future hold? Where are you going now?
Well, after New Soul, man, we've really felt that we reached a certain thing as far as producers. By that time, we got the trust of artists like George Benson, Tito Puente, and all these greats. And you never reach that, that place, And for me, you're always striving, always learning, and adapting with times, and still keeping what things you want to hold on to as well, And I just feel that with us, it was just something that it sounds like we're brothers, It just happens. We understand each other. There was never no fighting up in the studio, nothing like that. It was just I was like the little big brother to Kenny. Which I want to say a big congratulations to my brother Kenny. Anyway, go ahead.
So where do you want to take this? What's the future hold, do you think, for you?
The future, yes, we didn't get to that. The future, right now we started going out like a few years ago doing the Masters at Work dates, at like Carl Cox's birthday at Space. We've done Luciano's parties. We went to Rock in Rio, Rock in Lisbon. We played the Ministry, and special events around the world and stuff. And for us, it was important just to come out and just kind of spark it a little bit, see who's out there. Now we saw, now we're doing what we do. And then, we've been talking a few years to Simon Dummo about doing this anthology thing. And, and finally, we finished it, and a few weeks ago it came out, and we're very happy with the results. And, Defected has worked real hard on it. We're a great team together. It really worked out great. So that goes into the future idea. So, right now we have this 40 song project that came out.
Was it 28 artists or something you were working on?
No, that's something else. But this is Masters at Work. So it's called House Masters, Masters at Work on Defected.
Right.
We're going to do another one. Since the reaction was so good from the people, we are going to do another one to come out for April. And then we're going to do a lot of touring in the summertime as well. But it's gone in a lot of different places because we do so much together and separate that there's all these different projects that we have. I do Sunset Ritual with my wife, Anane, that we do in beach clubs around the world. We do Ibiza all summer. We've done, the Blue Marlin, Ushuaia Tower, next year in Beach House. So, we got a lot of stuff going on. And then we have Masters at Work. Then we got Kings of House. When I hang out with my boys, Tony Humphries, David Morales, we do this Kings of House night. It's, for me, I found out that it's about everybody that I know are very experienced. So it's just about having a night with them and things just happen that wouldn't happen if we played alone.
Yeah.
So that's why we do those nights. And I think I wanted people to experience that. And so did everybody else.
And what's the 28 artists thing?
28 artists is I'm doing an album. I've been putting out these records called Louie Vega Starring. And I did Dwayne Harden with Never Stop. Byron Stingley, Ain't No Stoppin' Love. Boosie, Angels Are Watching Me.
Yeah.
So what I did was I said, I want to do an album and I want to pick artists that I want to work with and I want to write songs with and for or for. And it became 28 artists. And you name it, you know, they're in there. You know what I mean? It's like today I saw a diva, she's in it now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's working like that. I'm letting it happen real natural, and I'm really excited. Imagine having an album with a diva, Byron Stingley, Kenny Bobian, Barbara Tucker, Josh Milan, Anane, Lynn Lockamy, Monique Bingham. You know, that's all part of the wish list, and some of them are already recorded. There's already about, let me see, I believe I'm up to 24. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's going to come out in March, and we're going to debut it in Miami, and I'm going to tour that as well. You know, so I really needed to do a record, you know, because I do a lot of writing songs with artists, and I do a lot of these more song-oriented projects. I said, let me do a whole album with that. You know, I can always do dubs when I release it and tracks. And some are real tracky, too. Like Luisito Quintero's track is crazy. Percussion, Afro. I mean, it goes from Afro to Latin to soul, R&B on house. I mean, it's all house, you know. BB Winans. Mm-hmm. You heard that dance record? I played it tonight, twice. Yeah. But that's a new song I did with BB Winans, Marvin Winans, Carbon Winans, and the Clark Sisters.
Okay, wow.
You know, so, you know, that's the caliber of material that's going to be on this album. So I'm really proud.
And we could talk all day about your huge catalogue of stuff.
No,
but
you know,
I really appreciate you coming in.
I think you got enough. Cut it down, actually. You got to slice that thing down. No,
thank you so much for taking time to come and see Mi-Soul and talking to us.
Thanks,
really
man. It was good to do this. I appreciate the love and support, and it's good that you're back again in a different way, man, and spreading the love. You guys, all you guys, you know, keep doing it. Mi-Soul.
Cheers. We'll keep making music.
Always. It's a passion, man. It's what I love to do. That's why I do it.
Cheers.
It's you guys. When I feel that today, like the way those people felt, that makes me do another 10 gigs. That makes me make another 10 records. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's why that all happens.
Brilliant.
I don't believe that. Well, I didn't just fall on the floor right now because I'm exhausted. But I guess I'm excited because tonight was a really wonderful night. And it was the perfect way I would want to return to Southport.
Yeah. Fantastic.
You know? Thanks, Alex, Jonathan, and the whole Southport family. Thanks, Mi-Soul. All right, man.
Take it easy. Thank you.
All right, man.